everyone, and welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy. I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. How is everyone else doing? Anxious? Feeling mentally ill? Yeah. I've been thinking about RFK Jr. this week, and they're making, they're possibly taking all COVID vaccines away, and they certainly made them very difficult to get now. I was just thinking, if you had created a creature out of all of the crazy things that RFK Jr. has hurt or destroyed, so you make a Frankenstein creature out of like a dead bear and a dead whale and a pond full of feces, like he swam in, a jug, like a milk jug of heroin. If you made some kind of like Frankenstein creature like that, and you put it as the head of, I don't even fucking know what he's the head of anymore, Health and Human Services? Jesus Christ. That thing would do less damage than he has done. Anyway, you know what is not going to do any damage, and in fact will improve your life? Today's episode, because today I'm talking to Dan Wriggins. And if you don't know who Dan is, I'm going to read you his bio right now. Originally from Yarmouth, Maine, musician Dan Wriggins started playing piano and guitar in high school, and around this time he met his future bandmates in the band Friendship, Michael Cormier O'Leary and Peter Gill. Michael, I'm sorry if I did not say your last name correctly. In the last 10 years, Friendship have released 5 records, starting with 2015's You're Going to Have to Trust Me on Bust and Boom Records, and their latest, Caveman Wakes Up, was just released in May on Merge. Folks, I love it. I had been emailing with Colette, who is Merge's press person, about talking to Laura on the show, which was a couple of episodes. And incidentally, she was like, hey, do you want to also talk to Dan from Friendship? And I was like, yeah. I love their new album. This is cool. Dan's a laconic guy, but I think we have the same kind of sense of humor. So there were some goops, some fun. His mom's a potter, so he grew up with craft making in the house. I thought that was very interesting. We talk about that, a bunch of other stuff. I like Dan a lot, and I think you will too. Also, coming up on the show, what do we got? Peter and Ari from Adamanaguchi, comic artist, wonderful comic artist, currently working on Absolute Batman. Nick Dragata, Hannah Francis, just talked to her, that was so cool. So stay tuned for those, but for now, let's talk to Dan. Before I hit record, you had said that, okay, so what you're doing now in terms of like work is you are driving vegetables for a CSA, right? To restaurants.
Well, CSA is, just driving wholesale delivery to restaurants.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this is where like I felt, this is where this resonated with me, was that you were like, and I'm paraphrasing you, but you're like, I have to keep track of like the zucchini, right? If I give too many zucchini, is that the plural of zucchini? In the morning, then I don't have enough for the restaurants in the afternoon. Right. And when you were just doing work like with your hands, like picking tomatoes or whatever, right? You didn't have that stress. And that stress is so real to me. The stress of like having to keep track of things. And I was wondering, does it emotionally get to you when like I blame myself and then I can't stop feeling haunted if I like fuck up something like that, where I'm like, I miscounted and now something later in the process of whatever I'm doing is fucked up. And then I just like, I berate myself. Is that what you do? Or you just like,
or shrug it off? Yeah. I mean, most of the time I don't think I get too hard on myself, about that type of thing. Yeah, but you got to decide like, well, how far am I willing to go personally to right this mistake? And because sometimes it means, oh, I got to do a little extra to try and fix it. And usually, and then you got to gauge how much uh, does the person on the other end actually need me to right the mistake? So yeah, but I don't know. I mean, if you're asking generally, how much do I bring work problems home? I've certainly over the years gotten better at leaving it, leaving it at
Oh,
work.
well, I mean, I want to find out what it was like before you got better at that. But in general,
Right,
are you haunted by fuck ups in the same way? Like, no matter what the domain is, whether it is like, say,
right,
a
right. Yeah,
creative domain, whether it's like, oh, fuck, we were supposed to like have, 100 small t-shirts. I actually got 80 small t-shirts, whatever it is. Or like, shit, I forgot to hit record. We just did a great take on whatever, right? Are you haunted by fuck ups in the same way I am? Or are you able to kind of just process it healthily?
right, right. Oh, well, yes and no. I mean, sometimes certain things, I think it's not. Certainly, it's not. Yeah, certainly there are times when I am, and then I do think compared to other people, I'm pretty good at getting over it and processing it. But and the times that you are, it doesn't really necessarily correlate to like how big of a mistake that was. It's just what was burned into your brain, and which thing did I mean, it's kind of the same phenomenon as like, oh, what was that one incident in middle school where I was so embarrassed and I'll never forget that type of stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's a funny thing where if you were if anyone's too good at processing it and like letting it not affect them, well, then they're going to end up making the mistake more often because they're not going to, because the anxiety and the worry about like, oh no, I blew it on this thing is part of what helps me to not blow it in going through life. So when it comes to holding up the other end of someone's bargain and trying to take personal responsibility, you do need a little anxiety.
Yeah, well, okay, but there are people out there who can, oh, I fucked up. I'll make restitution or whatever. Or like, it's not a thing that they even have to make restitution for. Like, I fucked up. Okay. You know what happens.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
they go on. Right. So either of those scenarios, I think is a healthy way to process it versus me who will wake up at 3 a.m. and be
Right.
like, why did that happen?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, maybe you ought to work on that, I suppose, Andy.
Look, I'm between therapists, okay? So I need you
Right,
to
right.
like give me something
Cool,
real
yeah.
that I can hang my hat on, okay, buddy?
Yeah, I got you covered. Yeah.
But I asked that, I think, because I was curious. You seem like an easygoing kind of guy. And I'm wondering, when I was a kid, I think a lot of this stuff got burned into my brain by my parents who were very much like, well, you have to do really well. That's going to, very like boomer, liberal. And I don't mean that in a pejorative sense like it is now, but very much like, hey, if you do well and you follow the rules, you'll do okay in life. Obviously we found that out to be absolute bullshit, but like
Right.
that was drilled into my head then. So therefore, I think this is the kind of math that my brain does or my psychology does is that, well, therefore any mistake means you're going to fuck up and then your life's going to be shitty. And I'm curious because you seem like an easygoing guy. So I don't know if that like makes sense to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Of course, get anxious and worried about stuff, and probably to a detrimental degree sometimes. On the other hand, I do think in general I'm pretty good at not sweating those things. And I suppose if I trace it to childhood, I mean, my folks were they had expectations, but they were also very supportive and very non-judgmental, I suppose. They were not the types to come down on me for stupid stuff, which, you know, it's not often the case. I talk to my friends and they're like, oh yeah, all this, they have all this baggage from parents who were, well, yeah, messed up in all kinds of ways. But I know, I mean, I know personally, my dad had a very, his father was super kind of authoritarian and strict. And so my parents were so concerned with not being that way. Also liberal baby boomers. But in a pretty neat way, I think they were very sensitive to yeah, not wanting to be real strict or controlling.
Yeah. Is there an example of something that you can remember that where you like fucked up, or were you not even fucked up? Like that seems a little too harsh, but like where you made a mistake and they were just like, yeah, it's no big deal.
Well, I think I don't have examples, but that's almost the point, you know, like the fact that like, yeah, I remember I dated someone once who whenever she would spill some, I mean, literally spilled milk, she would get kind of nervous. And I would be like, what the hell? Why are you nervous? And she would like, well, my dad would flip out at me whenever I did something like this. And that was so shocking to me that how could anyone possibly flip out at anyone for spilling a juice, you know? So yeah, I guess my point is the fact that my folks were normal about it means there's a lack of examples seared into my head.
Yeah. Yeah. Just so we're clear, my parent, if I spilled juice, they would just be like,
right,
please clean that up.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like the thing that you were talking about, your girlfriend or whoever, like, I don't know how you want to label that, but like, that seems like very like we're bordering on like some kind of abuse type situation there.
Totally.
So just so we're clear, my parents were like normal for the most part. It's just like when it came to like very like strictly talking about like existential type things or like grades or anything like that had to do with schooling or my future.
Yeah.
That's when it got rigid in a way where like I'm still feeling I mean, look, I've been through therapy. I've done EMDR. So like, it's not really that bad. I'm playing it a little bit up for this,
sure.
But you know.
Yeah. I mean, one thing particularly I mean, my mom is a potter.
By trade?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, she went to school for it when she was young and she's just been a potter her whole life. Yeah. She has a shop. She sells all her work there. She also taught ceramics for a long time, but most of her career and most of the money she made was really just selling pots, and she's been successful. And point is, I mean, she was always not just permissive, but very supportive of like, if I said, yeah, I'm going to try to be a musician, you know, I'm going to try to go into the arts. She wasn't just okay with it. She was psyched about it, you know, and it would have been hypocritical of her not to be, but yeah, I mean, and I feel like I have a memory of going, of hanging out in her pottery shop one summer, coming back from Philly, and you know, someone walked in and was like, "Oh, Danny, what's going on? What have you been up to?" And I'm like, "Well, I've been living in Philly. I've been working as a landscaper." And my mom was like, "He's a songwriter and a poet." And I was like, embarrassed, of course, but also, you know, that psyched about it too. Or looking back, it's like, yeah, that was very. A lot of folks do not have that, I suppose. So
yeah, that's amazing. At what point do you think you took on that identity for yourself, though? Like, I think that's amazing that your mom was very much like, no, take that. That's your identity. That's the thing. That's you know, maybe you're doing landscaping as a job, but like this is you, capital Y, you, right? As a songwriter, as a poet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't even care too much either way. Even now, it's like, you know, I published a book. I've been doing music professionally, and I do make money playing music. So if someone asked, I'd be like, well, sure, I'm a musician, but also I really care. I could be a landscaper too. I could be a delivery driver. It don't matter.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, but like I think there was a shift in me, and I don't know, maybe this is just me, but like when I said, "Oh no, I am a comedian or I'm a writer or whatever it was," there
Yeah.
was a shift in how I regarded the stuff I was doing. There was also, I mean, like when I moved to LA, where it actually became a career as opposed to just something I was trying to do.
Yeah.
Then I mean, I think it's gotten more messed up when that happened. But just in terms of identity, I think like there was a shift maybe in my confidence when I like started to get paid to do stuff. And I was curious, do you think there was any kind of shift in you?
I mean, certainly confidence. Yeah. I mean, 2020 or 2021. Yeah. End of 2020, I got into my MFA, and then end of 2021, friendship signed to merge. And both of those events felt like external validations of this creative work. And I suppose soon after that, started declaring music money on my taxes. So, that type of all those things, I suppose, yeah, had a confidence effect, an external mandate validation effect, and which in turn, yeah, does affect, I suppose, how I do the work. But
But do you remember like when, and maybe, I don't know. I don't know about what the timeline was. If this was like like if you need this external validation for you to take this on as part of your identity, but like there was probably a point before that where you went from saying like, well, I'm trying to do this to, oh no, I am a musician or I am a
right.
poet, right? Do you remember when that shift was or like how it happened?
I mean, I almost not really, because I guess all the time before that I had been living in Philly and um, doing jobs and also playing in a band and always sort of working on writing and music and performing. Like all of that time, I suppose I was not thinking about a career other than music. Jobs were always what is flexible enough to tour. So, any, I guess, any internal stuff about identity, I suppose in that way was always like, well, I'm just gonna be doing music. So it only really had to do with external, like what do I tell somebody at a party if they ask type of stuff. And for that, yeah, I suppose there was a gradual shift.
I want to come back to this, but I want to first talk about your mom because that seems really interesting. Did she always want to be a potter? And as an addendum, are we talking like, is this artisanal? Like, is she making functional pots or is she making art or both?
Right. As far as always want to be a potter, I mean, you'd have to ask her, but pretty much. I mean, I think she got to undergrad and maybe was messing around with ceramics versus some other fine art stuff, and she kind of honed in on ceramics. Everything she makes is functional, and so she wouldn't really usually wouldn't call herself an artist or a fine artist. At the same, she would call herself a craftsperson, and at the same time, I mean, it's clear to me that her work is inspired, and that the and that so much of what goes into her practice and what she makes and the final products is just the same as creative art
Yeah.
practice. You know, I, yeah, and yeah, she's been doing it for a long, long time, and she's one of the best. Great, incredible. And perhaps mugs are her most divine trademark, but she crushes it with bowls, plates.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think before recently, all of the plateware, all the bowls and stuff that I have ever had going back to childhood had mostly been functional. And like patterns and things like that on it, but in a pretty utilitarian way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got some like glasses that were like handmade, like very beautiful looking glasses. And it's crazy how much joy I get from them. From this everyday item that you don't think of as being an art piece or having that, like you said, inspired vision behind it. But like having that in my house is genuinely a like drinking, like, I mean, this is so dumb, but like, part of my routine lately to try to like calm my anxiety down is to pour 4 fingers of lemonade into one of these glasses at night and watch, something on TV and like try to like calm my brain down. And the joy from drinking from this glass is immense. So yeah, so it's interesting to have that in my life in a way that it hadn't been before.
Yeah.
But you grew up kind of with that around.
Oh yeah. In fact, we barely have glasses because we just have so many mugs that perform the same function.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh man. Yes, I am blessed to never have to buy a plate or bowl, and I have so many that are so good. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have. Oh yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I wish. I mean, something funny is I could have. She, of course, sort of taught me and my brother how to make pots a little bit when we were really young, and then she was always available. Certainly, if one of us had been like, "Mom, I want to learn how to really make pots," she would have taught us. And she's a master, and she has all the stuff, and so. Perhaps one of the lamest things about me is that I never took advantage. Of course, I mean, often you don't if it's there and you take it for granted. And of course, there are times when I think, oh, geez, the potter's life versus the musician's. Like one of those seemed a little healthier for your soul. And I know a lot of potters who are just so cool. So.
Yeah.
Alternate reality Dan would have been a nepotized potter who is generally happier. But instead I write songs.
Wait, hold on. Do you really, I know you're kind of kidding, but like, do you think there's some kernel of truth in that's it? There's some kind of measure of a happier existence in being a potter?
Right. I mean, not really, but also, I mean, it's hard to not think that way. I mean, you go on tour and you eat gas station food all day long, and maybe you drink too much booze because it's very available, and I don't know. You could live in a nice countryside cottage and just be blasting pots all day. Ah, come on.
Yeah. I mean, look, you could agitate, you could push for better food. Although I remember one time when I was doing improv in New York and we went to Boston for some improv festival. And I was like, I can't eat shit. I can't eat garbage food. We got to go to this like a half decent place where I can get, like a veggie burger at the very least.
Yeah.
And it caused so much fighting.
Right.
So
yeah,
maybe
right.
Maybe just the path of least resistance and eating, some Twinkies from 7-Eleven is the best.
It's right. It's like sometimes you can get good and healthy stuff, but it's always going to be kind of difficult. Yeah, I don't know.
Because traveling is so tough, and that if I eat shit, I feel like shit.
Right.
So I wanted to at least have some, at least have something with like a side salad with it where I could, at least feel somewhat like I was putting something half decent in my body. But,
I've got this question I love asking people, which is, how many French fries do you think you've eaten in your life?
I mean, when I was younger, I'm in the 80s, before the health craze really hit. I'm sure we're hitting McDonald's like maybe once every 2 weeks or so. But then, since then,
Slowing down.
do you have a number for yourself?
Well, I feel like I've done math before and never. I don't. Maybe between 50 and 100,000. But I don't know. I try how many fries are in a serving, how many times per week if you average it out over your life. Who knows?
Yeah.
Point is, I always end up eating way more on tour because they're the side to everything, and I'm always hungry, so it's like, man, I'm just gonna eat French fries again.
Are you a vegetarian?
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
yeah, that makes it. That's a hard mode that I've chosen for tour, but
right. Well, then it's going to be exponential
yeah,
because sometimes I'll go to a restaurant with someone, and that's like one of the few. It's like I could get a small side salad or some like broccoli and French fries, and everything else is meat. So I'm
right,
stuck with that stuff.
yeah.
Maybe a baked potato if I'm feeling like it. But I'm wondering if I don't want to keep going back to the like making mistake stuff, but I'm curious about like the act of like being a potter. Did you witness your mom? Like I'm thinking about like that if you make a pot and you like accidentally push the side in and it comes out kind of irregular, that there's a kind of just like, I'll just do it again. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Well,
Without there being like kind of like a deep kind of like, fuck, I'm a fucking
yeah,
idiot.
yeah. I destroyed it. Sure, yeah. I mean, there's three things there. There's three options. One is if you only push the side in a tiny bit, could be a feature.
Yeah.
It could be now you've made an even cooler thing. And in fact, I think that I mean, she wrote an article once in a ceramics magazine that was about decentering this idea that like, well, you can't. I mean, the biggest part of throwing on the wheel is centering. You have to be a master of that. You can't. But then once you're a master of that, you can learn to play with it and have some stuff that's slightly off. But of course, you have to know the rules before you break them and that type of thing. And so yeah, there's that. There's also this, right? You could, if you're early enough in the process and you've pushed the side in, you can literally use the same clay to just redo it.
Right.
And then third option is if you're too far in, well, all right, you already made 5 other bowls today, so it's just make another one. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No, there's this sweet spot, I think, in making stuff. And it happens to me more if I'm writing music than if I'm writing a script. But where like there's this sweet spot where a mistake comes in, but it makes the thing better. Or it's this kind of thing that like comes into the work of art that is so unexpected. And so because it's a mistake, it's not repeated throughout the rest of the thing. And so it gives it this kind of character. But then if you go too far, it just ruins the thing. It's like, oh, that's obviously you just fucked up and you just left that sour note in there or something like that. Or you like,
Right.
You didn't want to redo the guitar line or punch in or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a almost universal thing. You might I might be writing a song and then, oh, I accidentally deleted this line on my word processor. Oh, look, without that line that I thought was crucial, it's an even better song. Or, and in this record Friendship just put out, on the song Free Association, we have these synthesizers or it's a Mellotron, and we use the vocal preset, the like woman's opera voice Mellotron note and a saxophone, a fake saxophone. And when we tracked that, it was the very last thing we tracked. And it was a joke. But Peter was like, I'll play something. He was like, I'll put something on the track. And he just played the goofiest shit ever. And in the moment, I certainly thought, like, oh, well, obviously this isn't going to be in the track. We are doing a bit right now for fun, for ourselves. And then lo and behold, it's one of the really cool parts of that song is these ridiculous Mellotron patches. So, yeah, anything that one can do to promote those mistakes, I suppose. But I guess it is something that you can't. If you could control doing it, then defeat the purpose.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing that I'm curious about, which is control issues. Because I remember when I was back in college with, I mean, I still make music with my friend Kyle, but like when we first started writing music together, the first album we made, I was just like practicing this. I was practicing singing this one line so I could get the notes down, and it had been recording, and he put that at the top of the song, and he left it in, and I was furious. I mean, this is pre-therapy, Andy, and I've apologized to him by this point, but like, I was so angry, and it's like, and in retrospect, as an adult, it's a very fun thing that's in there. And that's the thing that taught me that like you should allow serendipity into the creative process, because before it was just about control for me. Like I have to control this art object. I have to control everything. And I'm wondering, it seems like you, and I don't know what is, but it seems like you are less controlling, or you don't have those kind of control issues.
Well, certainly over the years, yeah, I've gotten much better. I think I have. I mean, in general, well, I'm thinking about recording and music production, and early records. Like, if anything, felt too like I was so Spartan with it. I was so like wanting to keep everything really understated. And so if Peter played some guitar line that was like too shiny and like fun, I was like, oh no, we can't have that in there. And so I've certainly gotten better at much better at being open to stuff, and so have all of us. I mean, yeah.
I mean, talk to me about Maine, because I don't really know that much about the state. I just lump it in kind of. I'm like, well, you have less guns than New Hampshire, I guess, and more lobsters, I don't know, than Massachusetts, maybe not, I don't know. But growing up there, what was it like? Because in my mind, the way that you're talking, I was like, oh, it's this like giant, there's freedom there in a way, like the feeling of being free in a way that maybe wasn't there in suburban Pennsylvania. I don't know, I'm curious.
Sure. I don't know, could be. I mean, that's the type of thing where I don't know, because I don't know the alternative. I mean, yeah, a lot of my childhood was in Yarmouth, Maine, which is a suburb of Portland, and it's called a suburb, but it really is a small town. It feels like a small New England town, which, I mean, certainly growing up, I felt very free. And I don't know if this was my parents' thing or a generational thing, or maybe a state of Maine small town thing, but certainly like, you'd leave your house and walk around, and sometimes your parents don't know where you are, but it doesn't matter. Go all over town with your friends, biking and doing whatever. So
that part's generational.
Yeah, right. I suppose it is, yeah. And yeah, I mean, right. I still love going up to Maine, and it's, yeah, still probably a little easier to relax and take stuff a little slower for me than it is living in Philly. But
yeah, this is going to be a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What is the air like?
Well, literally when I get up there, I'm always like, oh, the air is nicer. And I don't know if that's based on anything, but probably it is. It feels fresh and clean, but is that literally just some density of pollution down here? I don't know.
Probably. But yeah, the reason I asked that was there's something in my head where I'm just like, oh, I wonder if anytime that I'm around a vista, anytime I'm around a body of water, a forest or something like that, it changes something in my brain and makes me feel a little more open, a little more calm. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's how you grew up, but I wonder if that kind of opened you up in a certain way. I don't know. I'm just throwing something out there.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of not hurting for natural beauty up there. So, and certainly I remember it being all about that. I mean, high school and college, I was someone who loved hiking and going out on a boat if I could. Yeah, I don't know. What is that? Does that do something to a person? I hesitate to say yes, but yeah, but probably it does. Probably it has some type of effect. But
I mean, I'm so shitty at geography. Where is Portland in Maine? Is it on the coast?
It's on the coast, and it's in the south. I mean, it's southern Maine. It's like an hour drive from the New Hampshire border at the coast
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, and it almost all, I mean, like, I suppose, well, yeah, but the population in Maine is all hugely just on the southern coast and very rural anywhere further north, but
I mean, how rural was Yarmouth?
I wouldn't call it rural. I mean, it's like probably 8,000 people in the town, but it's 20 minutes away from Portland, which is a city, a very small city. So it didn't feel rural, but then if you just start driving north an hour or so, I suppose it gets rural.
Yeah. What does your dad do when you're growing up?
He's an architect,
Okay.
so I guess he's retired now. But yeah, I mean, he had been a carpenter for a lot of his life, and then he started drawing the houses instead of busting his ass to build them. And so, he could do that. He worked for himself, just not, he didn't work for a firm. He just was just a, whatever you call that, independent guy. And so he had clients up and down,
Hmm.
all over Maine, mostly.
That is the term, by the way, independent guy.
Independent guy, yeah. Well, yeah, it's funny. I mean, both of my parents worked for themselves. Each one, they both never, well, not never. They both had been employed at companies in their lives, but for for my whole time knowing them, uh, each one, their main thing was just, I'm a small business owner and the only employee is me. And so I thought of that as normal, and
Mm.
it's not normal.
Mm-mm.
I mean, and I think that does kind of explain my, like, I mean, I don't mind working for people, I do it, but I think of running a music, yeah, I think it feels natural to kind of have my business be my art, and also I'm always kind of bristle at, like, I love paying people, but I don't like trying to be a boss in any way.
Yeah, sure.
And I think neither of them could or would have wanted to have an employee.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks having to be like the podcast I do with my wife. We have someone book that,
Mhm.
and she's great. I hate having to I hate having to tell her what to do, but I have to
Right.
because she needs direction. She has to know like what to do or who to go, who to like write to or whatever, or like. But it feels bad to have to
Yeah.
like tell another person what to do, even if you're nice about it, and even if you were like pretty easygoing. You still have to command a person, and in exchange for money, and it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Not about it.
Yeah. There's like, it's the thing that I don't like, we don't have to go into it. I don't know how your political or philosophical leanings are, but I'm a socialist, and I don't enjoy how capitalism coerces one into having to do stuff that they don't want to do in order to live. And so I think being even like a very benign version of that makes me, what's the word I'm looking for? Frustrated and anxious.
For sure. Frustrated, anxious, uncomfortable. And the irony, though, is that if you, or I feel like if I get, I don't know, really uncomfortable and weird about it, I do worse at that task,
Yeah, 100%, because she needs to know who to write.
Right.
And if I'm like too in my head being like, well, I'll just tell her later, she just doesn't have anything to do. I mean, she can
Right,
do her
right.
own stuff. She's a playwright also. Like she has her own art to make, but like then like we have to scramble at some point to get guests, and it's just like it
Right.
just makes it worse because I
Yeah.
can't just hey, here's 5 people. Can you please write them?
Right,
Like how?
right.
Why is anyway?
Yeah, no, I get it, man. Yeah, the farm I work at, the guy that runs it is, yeah, I mean, farming is an insane job to do, and pretty disorganized with it, and I think he also hates this idea of being the boss, and he'd much rather every single farmer he employs understand every single element of the farm so that he doesn't have to ever make a decision or tell people what to do. And of course that makes it so complicated and bad. um, yeah, if you're listening to this, you're doing your best, man.
Jack, we love you. All
Right.
right. Hey, we understand.
Yeah.
With your parents, do you think they bristled at being employees, or do you think they just naturally ended up having their own businesses?
Yeah, my dad didn't like it. He did. I mean, yeah, he did construction, and then at some point in his 30s, got the architecture degree, and then he did work for a little firm only briefly, and I don't think he liked it very much. And he also realized that, yeah, this is a job that he can do freelance style. So, yeah, I think with him, he didn't dig it. I mean, my mom did. She taught at an art school for many years, in addition to having her own shop. So I think she was fine with it, with being faculty in that way, which I guess means having a boss.
Yeah. I mean, depending on how strict the school is, they tell you what the curriculum is. If you're
Right.
lucky, you can design. They just give you a kind of like, this is the class. Like I taught a lot of critical thinking classes and philosophy departments, and there would be a textbook that you would have to do, and it was always shitty. But then they're like, but you can do whatever else you want besides that. So
Right,
I would
right.
then fill the rest of the syllabus with good stuff that kind of counteracted the kind of lame shit that was in the textbook that they had. But so anyway.
Yeah, my dad has a story that I love retelling, which is of a guy, a friend of his, who was a carpenter and went to kind of talk to a contractor about working for him, and said to the contractor, "Yeah, I'll help you make buildings. But I only work in the mornings. I won't work past noon." And the boss was like, "Well, what? Why not?" And he said, "Well, I don't want to make work a habit." I don't know if he got hired or not, but it's I don't know. I love that. I like that story and the vibe. I
Yeah.
don't want to make work a habit.
Sometimes sticking to your guns actually makes the employer want you more. If they're like, "Hey, will you do this for X amount of money?" and you're like, "No," and they're like, "Oh, okay. What if I did this? What if you did
Totally.
this?"
I've always found, I mean, it's all changing now, but early days of the band Friendship, we would always, we all had day jobs, and some of us still do, and it was always like, oh no, like I'm gonna try to apply for this job, but like, you know, I'm scared about telling him the truth about how much time I'm gonna want off to tour, and I understood why that made my friends and I nervous, but my experience was always like I'd go to the interview and I'd be like, yeah, so I'm a touring musician. I will need chunks of time off where that I can tell you about in advance, but I'm going to decide how long they are and when they are. And they were always like, cool, fine. So, if you led with it, it always felt so much better than like trying to wheedle around scheduling
Yeah.
after not telling them about it.
And there's definitely, I mean, I don't know about this in terms of like being an employer, but like there's definitely something attractive about that kind of confidence where you're just like, hey, this is what this is.
Right.
Yeah. If you like that, great. We're in business. But if not, I'll find something else.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm curious then, like growing up, this is going back to what we were talking about earlier. Was there a thing you wanted to do? Was it always this?
I guess like I started playing music and writing songs in high school, and I wasn't for sure about it, but I think by the end of high school, I did kind of feel a low level buzz of like, yep, I'm gonna be a musician. Like that's the thing.
You say that like just like, well, this is it. I guess this is it. As opposed to like, no, I'm going to be a musician. So what was like that kind of like? It almost seems like you
Right.
just kind of slid it. You're like, I'm writing these songs. They're pretty good. I guess this is what I'm doing.
Well, let me see. I mean, there's always the feeling of like, but is that going to work? Will it cut it? And I did go to college and wasn't only, I didn't drop out of college to just be in a band. So, um, I suppose, I don't know. I don't know how to really, it's like, I think I went to college because I did think like, oh, well, maybe it's good to learn more about the world before I just pour everything into doing music. I also didn't really know how one would do that. And then pretty soon after college, we moved to Philly and started the band. But, again, well, I don't know. I mean, like, of course, from day one of friendship, I was thinking like, well, I would love to be a professional musician where the job is just writing songs and touring and putting out records. Hope that can happen. I'm going to try. And for a bunch of years, it didn't happen that way. I always had day jobs and just gets closer and closer.
But like when you went to college, because the way you describe that, it seems still very adult, where you're like, well, I need more experience of the world, or I need to like expand my horizons. Whereas like when I was going, I'm like, well, I guess I'm just supposed to, again, this is just this kind of algorithm that my life had been following. Like, well, I'm a middle class Jew from Pennsylvania. This is just what you do. You go to college and then you get a job and then you have a family and your kids and whatever, not really investigating what I wanted from it. Like, I don't want kids. I never like thought about it before.
Yeah.
And then, it took me into adulthood where I'm just like, I don't want any of this stuff. I don't want, I'm not condemning anyone else who wants it, but I just don't want it. And I had just been kind of like, do you remember basic programming? Did you ever do that just like in school? I mean, this might be way too old for you, but like you would type it. It was just like a kind of like real, I was trying to look for a different word than the word basic, a very fundamental low level kind of programming that like kids would learn in school. You would write 10 and then a command and then 20 and then a different command. And then it would just go down by tens with different commands.
Sure.
And you could like draw pictures and you could do other little things. It wasn't that, but like, that's what my life was. It was just like basic things up until like I started deciding for myself. And that's what I'm curious. Like, it seems like you were like you had a very kind of like adult way of looking at your life.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. Yeah. It's hard to, yeah. I mean, I suppose early on it was both. But the basic programming for me was just was like go to school and, well, I guess it was like stuff that I also wanted. So it also felt good. And then it always, oh, how am I gonna, I mean, or maybe going back to my mom, it's like it also seemed viable to go into the arts sort of. And so trying to always trying to work on music felt both like normal and
Doable.
well, and yeah, doable, but also it's just it's I just wasn't thinking about it that much because it's like, well, this is what I like the most and I literally do feel best at. So is it gonna, why, like, this is just what I'm gonna keep doing. I'm not gonna stop.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. So so you just kind of like, this feels good. I'm just going to keep going in this direction as opposed to kind of making a conscious decision.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And right. and it just would keep accumulating. Like, well, now I've put a few years into it this way, and we're getting better, and the sound and the albums are cool, and we don't have that many fans, but we do have some recognition. So I guess we just keep doing it. And
Yeah.
yeah, oh man,
Like when you were growing up, did they make rules for you that you had to follow, or was everything kind of just like you just did what you kind of wanted to do, and as long as it wasn't too, as long as you weren't robbing banks or whatever, like they didn't really feel like they needed to step in?
yeah, it was that. It was the latter. Certainly, if I had wanted to do anything, they would have been supportive, and I mean, they liked music a lot, so they also kind of thought it was cool. And I was writing. I mean, always have been writing music that is, in folk and rock and country world. So it's literally the type of stuff they like. So I think they even to a preference level, they thought my music was cool, and and certainly they, and especially my dad, have always been worried, like, oh, well, can he make a living doing this? But certainly I was supportive in terms of like high school and getting into trouble. Like, yeah, they were very permissive. In a way, they were lucky that my brother and I weren't more degenerate, because we could have gotten away with worse stuff than we did. So,
Like, what are we talking? Like, what's the?
oh, I mean, we would drink and go to parties and smoke a whole lot of weed, but we didn't do that to we also got pretty good grades and had a good social life, XYZ. So if we had been, I guess I mean that if I had started skipping school to smoke weed, I could have done it. And my parents would have been like, uh-oh, what do we do? And lucky for them, I didn't.
Right. I think the difference is between a kid who it's the beer and the pot that's the focal point of the thing, versus it seems like you and your brother was more like, well, it's the social part, and it's nice that these things are there to do whatever they do to your brains while you're doing the social stuff. Like, you're not sitting in a finished basement doing bong rips on your own. ?
I suppose I never was. High school, there were times when I was getting stoned every day, but it wasn't. I never had a bong, and usually it was with friends. So
yeah, my version of that was going to the giant supermarket after school, getting a 20-ounce of Coke, and then going and shoot hoops. That was my. Your pot was my 20-ounce of Coke,
right?
Which again shows you. This goes back to the beginning where I'm just like, I was so scared of deviating from being a goody two shoes in most cases that it didn't even, like, to this day, I've never even smoked pot, because I'm just like, well, now I just feel like I'm too old. And I'm just like, what do you got? Like,
I've pretty much stopped. There were times when I did all the time, and when I was younger, and I just kind of, it stopped affecting me in the good ways and started doing all the, some people are like, oh, it makes me paranoid and anxious. It actually makes me anxious. And that sort of started to happen to me. So I was like, well, okay, I'm just going to stop because I don't like it anymore.
Yeah.
It also makes me feel the aches and pains in my body more.
Really?
I get more sensitive. Yeah, I get suspicious. I also say, when I get stoned, often I'll see the worst in everybody. And I don't want that.
No.
No.
I mean, that's my natural state of being, is seeing the worst. So I'm just like, I need stuff that will alleviate that, not that will intensify it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan, how do you feel
right now?
Yeah, we're towards the end. We're right there. And I'm curious. Was this good? Was this bad?
That was great. Yeah, lots. We went all over the place.
Did I miss anything? Sometimes I like asking this. Is there something you thought we would talk about that I missed?
Oh, nothing. Nothing particular. Nothing comes to mind. I like all this nature nurture stuff. I feel like you talk about your memories and you wonder about how much it shaped you, and there's no way to freaking know because, well, I only lived one life.
I think you can do. I bet you can get a 75%. Maybe 80% map, though. I think you can figure out some of the stuff, and not in a Maybe not an objective scientific way,
Yeah.
but I think you'd be like, oh, well, this stuff happened. You know what? This is how I think about it. Because, when I write a script or something like that, I sometimes think in my mind as a person, as a series of faders on a mixing board, and all the different things are different traits. And all
Right.
the faders move in time, right? As someone's life progresses, maybe the like whatever initiative or anxiety is down and then it gets pushed up or something like that. And if you think of your life like that as a series of moving faders, I think you can get a decent picture of the trajectory of like why something happened. Because it's not like a X thing happened when I was a kid, therefore Y thing happens
Right.
when I'm an adult. It's never like that. It's just like stuff nudges you in certain directions. I definitely
Sure.
think your parents making things with their hands nudged you. It didn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessitate. Actually, let me ask this last question then.
Sure.
Was there a moment you can think of, or just like a period of transition for you, where you went from someone who appreciated music to someone who, well, I got to make this?
Oh, I've good question. I don't. Certainly I was obsessed with music in like middle school and then into the beginning of high school, and I had taken lessons on piano a little bit, but and then there was a point in high school I was like, I want to take guitar lessons. And then there was a point where I was like, I'm gonna try to write songs. But in certainly none of those felt like a big decision. And I think what is kind of obviously missing is some point of the even just the switch from I'm taking guitar lessons and learning how to play guitar in high school, cool, to I'm going to write songs that I sing. I mean, that not everyone does that. And I don't
No.
know why I did it. Maybe I literally did it just because I was playing. I mean, I had friends, Mike, who plays drums for Friendship. I knew him since fifth grade, and he was a drummer. And so, and he played drums very well. And so I was playing guitar, and it was like, oh, let's hang out with Mike and we'll jam together. And so perhaps part of it was just, well, we want something to jam on. Of course, we could play cover songs, but yeah, for some reason we thought, oh, well, it'd be cool if we had our own music. So,
I mean, that's it. That's it. That's a lot of it, right? It's just like,
yeah,
I think for especially musicians, right? It's just like, well, this is fun. This is cool. But I still think that what you're saying, though, there's something interesting in the fact that like there is that you could just play covers. You could have played, Sweet Leaf or whatever and been happy doing that. But there was something in you. And I wonder if it is really just like watching your parents create their own stuff where like it just got into you in some way. Because I do find that transition point in people, whoever I'm talking to, whether it's an artist or a writer or someone like that, I do find that to be fascinating for every person.
yeah, I'm digging it. Yeah, it is fascinating, and you've forced me to think about it more now. So, so now I got a whole new thing. I mean, not that I hadn't thought about that type of stuff, but certainly I'm becoming aware of how much fun it is to draw these connections.
Yeah. It's again, I think about this a lot with musicians where I'm just like, it's fucking fun to play music. And like you sometimes like I guess this is the question we'll end on this. You don't seem like an ego-driven person. But like I think part of the reason I started writing music when I was a teenager was I wanted recognition and I wanted it to be for something I did as opposed to yeah, I can learn this. I can learn how to play Loretta's Scars or whatever. Or I can try to write something of my own and get recognition for it. I definitely think at the core of myself was some kind of resentment for like, well, I could do this. I can get the recognition. Right. I mean, look, there's still a lot of resentment for a lot of stuff, but I think I've pulled a lot of it out of the artistic process, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, or was there someone you were trying to be like? Was there a particular musician where you're like, oh, that seems like I would like to be like this person?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, there were plenty. And so, yeah, certainly hearing artists playing songs on their guitars was like, oh, I want to be cool like that. Yeah, I mean, the question of like ego and how much did that start to kick it off for me, or does that sustain it? Of course it does. Of course, it's cool to get up on stage and play something and have people dig it. I mean, that's always going to feel great. And also, if that was the only thing motivating me, I don't think it would sustain so well.
It burns
There's
itself out.
a lot of other good stuff going on. Yeah, I don't know. Certainly from day one, I mean, maybe this is like, I even though the songs I wrote in high school kind of suck, they were better than the songs anyone else, any of my friends were writing in high school. And so I was like, I was at that point, I was like, oh, maybe I'm good at this. And that has continued. I mean, I wouldn't do it if I didn't dig what I was doing. And also that's part of I think progress of art is like you get closer and closer to something that you would just put on because you love it. And the more a thing I make is like that, the more I'm like, yeah, it's working.
I love that.
So,
Yeah. That's great. Dan, thank you so much for joining me.
Hell yeah. Thanks a lot, Andy. Had a great time.
Thank you. That was such a lovely note to end on. I totally resonates with me. So
yeah,
thank you so much.
Hell yeah.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, oh, 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 bye.